Celebrate. They have done it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with an instant match reaction. Newcastle United 3, Ipswich Town 0 in the Bobby Robson derby, the Kieran Dyer derby, the Titus Bramble derby, as other people told me in the preview. But this was pretty much job done for Newcastle. Never really looked in doubt, to be fair. Some good players at Ipswich, some slightly concerning moments, I suppose, in a way, in terms of their ability, up front, probably with one player in Liam Delap. But generally, it was job done by Newcastle and never really looked in doubt, to be honest with you. We're going to get stuck right into the game, talk about the key moments, talk about the players' performances, give you a bit of a ranking as well. If that's the kind of thing you guys like, smash subscribe, help get us to the next milestone. I know a few of you dropped out from my previous post-match review of the debacle last week against Aston Villa. Obviously, you can see I'm in a much better mood this weekend, but this was a much better game for Newcastle. This is what we needed after that game against Aston Villa, to be fair. So click subscribe, come back. If you've left and you're watching again, come back. Come on. There's still room for you here. And if not, there's room for everybody. So click that button. So let's get stuck in then. So this is how Newcastle United lined up today. The big change really was in midfield. So no Joe Linton, a knee injury apparently. He was out. So Joe Willock came in. I was a bit disappointed not to see Louis Miley, to be honest with you, but we'll get into Joe Willock and Louis Miley in a minute. But other than that, it was unchanged, even though Anthony Gordon was back on the bench, and it was Sven Botman for the first time in a long time, which was a great sight for everybody to see. In terms of Ipswich, obviously they had Leif Davis suspended for his red card last week. Geordie Boy and Liam Delap was back to lead the line, who was the player we were all worried about, really. And he did have some good moments in the game. But let's get stuck in then. So in terms of this game, was unbelievable. The first half, we were all over this lot. 71% possession we had in the first half. The whole game was 78%. We had 10 shots. This is just in the first half. 10 shots versus therefore we created 4 big chances. It just seemed to be a matter of when, not if, for Newcastle United. We were all over them, chance after chance after chance. I think we put in something daft like 28 crosses in the first half. Isak had chances. So many chances, that weird one that he backheeled over the bar. Tonali hit the kind of stanchion of the post as well. We had so many chances. The game turns really on the strength of a red card, I think. If I'm being honest with you, I think the referee was poor for both sides. I'm going to try to be very honest about that. If I'm an Ipswich fan, I'm a bit disappointed at the referee's performance. I thought he lost control of the first half. There was loads of moments, he's booking players rashly without even giving it any thought. And Ben Johnson goes through with Dan Burn. Dan Burn puts his leg out. Johnson kind of goes to the right, goes over Burn's leg. It does look a little bit theatrical. He does look like he's trying to buy the free kick. But the referee could have handled that a lot better for me and just give him a warning. He didn't. He gave him a yellow card. And then, a few minutes later, he gets the red card. Isak, who was struggling to get in the game a little bit. He only had a few touches from that particular moment. But it's an unbelievably beautiful bit of skill from Isak. He just kind of caresses it round Johnson. And it's reactionary from Johnson. He reaches out and he grabs Isak and he both hands on the hips and pulls him. And Isak's got his hands up, shouting free kick. And you just know the kid's going to go off because he's been booked and he's off. And you think, fucking hell, Ipswich are having a nightmare here. They really, really are. They're already at the Alamo, clearing shot after shot after shot. I mean, Christ almighty, they were dealing with more shots than the fucking Alamo. But it was only a matter of time for Newcastle United. And obviously that red card does change the game, really. Shortly after that, there's a challenge on Murphy, which is Enciso. And for me, right, people will say it's soft. Ipswich fans might be going mental about it. And I kind of get that. I get them being a bit annoyed about it, right? But if you go back and watch it again, we're living in a VAR world. We're living in 2025. If you're going to be stupid enough as a player to put your hand out and grab a lad by his arm, right, he's going to go down and you're going to get found out when they go to the cameras. That's exactly what happened. People can say it's a soft penalty and what's football all about if these penalties are being given, but you shouldn't be grabbing people like that. Murphy goes past and see, so he just puts his arm out. Again, it's a reactionary thing. And when you're getting battered week in, week out like Ipswich are, these are these reactionary things that you just try to do to stem the tide. they're not thinking about it. And he just puts his hand out and pulls Murphy. Murphy goes down. Ref goes over to the screen. The commentator saying, "Oh, it's never going to be a pen, this." And I thought, mate, what are you talking about? It's a blatant penalty because he's pulled him. And you can't pull a player in the box. So he goes down. Alexander Isak comes up, bang, back of the net, 22nd goal this season in the Premier League. Officially his highest scoring season so far for Newcastle United. And we go in miraculously at 1-0 at half-time, and you're thinking, bloody hell, we should be about 4 or 5-0 up here. You know, Ipswich had to make a change before half-time. They had to sub off ex-Mackham Jack Clark, who was getting a torrent time of booing from the Newcastle United supporters. He had to go off. Bit unlucky for him, obviously, for Godfrey coming on for the red card decision with Johnson to try and solidify themselves in the back. But Ipswich offered very little. You know, lovely touches from Delap. You can see why this kid is caught a lot of interest. Some of his touches, lovely centre-forward play, strength, nice bit of movement, buying free kicks. I love the cheeky shithouse smiling when he got up as well. That lad is definitely going to leave Ipswich. Now they're officially relegated. There's no doubt about that. And it's a shame, but you know, Ipswich should get a decent amount of money from 30 million quid, hopefully help rebuild in the summer to come back up. But I thought the lad looked excellent in the first half in terms of his centre-forward play, but he had nobody else around him, and that's the difference between a team that's in the top three and a team that's in the bottom three. So second half kicks in. We're all over them again. The movement's slick and crisp. You know, we're just going through like a knife through butter, really. Isak's looking sharp, Tonali, Bruno's looking sharp. We then get the second goal. Dan Burn, weird enough, Dan Burn put something on Instagram, and I commented on Dan Burn's Instagram and said, "Goal for you today, big man." Way before the game, by the way. "Goal for you today, big man. I can just feel it in the air." And he did get a goal. So maybe I should do that every week for Dan Burn. But lovely cross from Kieran Trippier, the perfect cross almost to the back stick. Dan Burn comes in with a header, can't really miss. Back of the net, we're 2-0 up, and we should be about 4 or 5-0 up, really, but we're 2-0 up. We're in massive control of this game. There's no doubt about it. Ipswich sub off their best player in Liam Delap to bring on Hurst. We bring on a couple of changes as well. Nice, refreshing changes. We bring on Lewis Miley. We bring on Anthony Gordon for, I think it was Willock and it was Murphy as well that went off. Murphy was all right. He huffed and puffed today, put in a lot of good crosses, had a couple of attempts, had a beautiful shot, just zipped by the post. You know, but nice to see Gordon come on. He was really working hard to do something. Lewis Miley looked a lot better today. I felt he got involved in the game a lot more than Joe Willock. I felt the game passed Joe Willock by a little bit. He still got 40 touches, Joe Willock, which I was quite surprised at. So Joe Willock played, just to compare the two of them, I suppose, Joe Willock played for 67 minutes, 40 touches, 89% passing accuracy, 3 key passes. In terms of his ground duels, he won 2 out of 5 aerial duels. He lost the ball 7 times. So comparing that to Lewis Miley when he come on, very different type of players here, but more possession-based player is Lewis Miley. So he had 24 touches in 23 minutes, 95% passing accuracy. He won one of his 1 ground duels. No key passes from Lewis Miley, to be fair. So you compare the two there, it looks like, I suppose, on paper, Willock's had a better game, but I just felt Lewis Miley looked a lot sharper than Willock did, got involved in the play a lot more than Joe Willock did as well. But it was nice to see them come on. The big sub, the game changer, was Will Osula. Everyone's been crying out for Will Osula to come on. And my word, he come on today and he looked unbelievable. Come on for Isak, I think it was. Wilson come on as well for Harvey Barnes, who again looked quite sharp at that. Barnes was unlucky not to get his shot off. He was in really good positions as well, and he was very unlucky not to get a goal or a shot off at least today. Barnes again looking sharp. I'm liking what I'm seeing from Barnes. Will Osula comes on, and he's just this live wire. He's got that Tino Asprilla energy about him. You don't know what he's going to do next. Corner comes in. He rises like a salmon. It's an unbelievable header, Shearer-esque or Tino-esque against Barcelona. He's up, hang time, bang, header right in the top bins. And you're thinking, go on, Will Osula. And after that, he just wanted the ball. He was screaming for the ball, a little step over, chucking inside, shooting on sight of the keeper. The keeper looked ropey as well in the first half. I mean, he had an argument with his left back, who was taking a goal kick. He looked all over the place, the keeper. I'm amazed nobody else shot from distance. I wanted Lewis Miley to have a shot from distance as well, but it was just nice and neat, clever passes by Lewis Miley today. But I really, really like what I saw from Will Osula. I thought he looked excellent, real live wire. And why not use him in more games? Why not bring him on? I know it was comfortable today, and it didn't look like Newcastle were ever in any real threat of losing this result. But a player that's got pace and strength like that and can pop up with something out of the blue, I'd love to see him get a little bit more impact time on the pitch. I really do. In terms of Wilson coming back on, I just think that he's again, he just looks leggy. Wilson doesn't look quite at it. With every game that passes, he gets a little bit sharper, but we've seen what we've seen from Wilson. There's not really anything there, I don't think, going forward. But Sven Botman comes on as well. Brilliant to see the Botman come on, 83rd minute for Fabian Schär. Lovely little smile and cuddle between them two as well. And I just thought Botman again come on, and he just looked like Botman, didn't he? The touch was good. Didn't have to do a lot, but got stuck in, held 2 or 3 players off. Great to see Botman come back as well. Yeah, absolutely brilliant, to be fair. So yeah, great to see the lads come back on. Great to see a strong bench. Great to see impact from the subs that we haven't seen for a few weeks. And a very steady 3-0 win for Newcastle United. I'm going to get stuck into your comments in a minute, but that's the relegation teams confirmed. Just a little thought on this before I jump into your comments. So that's the 3 teams that got promoted, relegated this season, and relatively easy as well. And you've got to look at what chance these teams having promoted out of the Championship have in the Premier League with PSR and FFP. Unless they breach the rules and get a fine like Forest did, they don't seem to have much of a chance of staying up. Forest obviously got that fine, took that medicine, and now they're pushing for Champions League and brought some great players in along the way. Is that what promoted teams have got to do? I'm loving seeing Burnley and Leeds back in the Premiership next season. The more northern teams, the better, in my opinion. Sorry, Southern fans, if that upsets you, but I like to see a lot of northern teams in the Premier League, and also it's great for the away travelling support for Newcastle, not having to go down to fucking Southampton and go to Burnley and Leeds, which is only within a couple of hours, especially with these ridiculous kickoff times. But what hope are these teams going to have if they can't invest properly to keep themselves in the division? Little thought there away from Newcastle. But let's get stuck in to your comments there. George is in the house. Osula leapt like a crazy Danish salmon. He absolutely did. We'll have Delap. Cheers. And Stephen, it was very nice, by the way, of Manchester United to allow Ipswich to play Delap today, obviously because Manchester United owned the player, if you believe what that lass was saying on the United stand the other day. That was ridiculous, by the way. Absolutely ridiculous. Terrific lad saying, absolutely fucking love Osula, 100%. Dan Robinson saying, what a game. Awful officiating. Ipswich were very dirty. They were dirty, Dan. Dirty Dan. They were dirty, Dan. They were. But the ref was really poor. I thought he lost control of that game completely. It was an awful tackle on Sandro in the first half that I thought could have warranted a card, and he didn't even let that go. Didn't even go back and pull that up. And yeah, it's really concerning with these shit referees because somebody could get hurt. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. Coming there from Adrian saying, hi, Chris, how are you? Man of the match is Isak for Newcastle United. Nah, not for me. It's a tough one. I think Kieran Trippier is probably going to get man of the match, I think, in a lot of people's eyes. I thought he was excellent today. I mean, his touches today were unbelievable. Kieran Trippier, he's got, 2 clearances there. He's got 2 assists as well, to be fair. And he's got 156 touches and a 93% passing accuracy. I was very hard on Kieran Trippier last week. I didn't like what I saw from Trippier. I thought all the team were poor, but Trippier looked really leggy last week. Maybe that was one game too many. That's where squad rotation has to come into play. But he was excellent again today. Trippier, a week to recover in a relatively easy game, I think, without sounding too disrespectful to Ipswich. By the way, huge respect to those Ipswich fans travelling all that way. I've done that drive before. I used to work for a company down in Norfolk, and that is a fucking drive. Norfolk and Suffolk, by the way, to come all the way up to Newcastle. That is a big drive, and they stayed right to the end. And rightly so, those Ipswich players went over and cheered on those supporters. So well done to the Ipswich supporters there. But yeah, Kieran Trippier is probably going to get a man of the match. I think Bruno a close second. I thought Bruno came to play today. Him and Sandro looked really good today, and I was very impressed with what I saw there. Chris Thompson saying, nice to see Botman back. Absolutely, 100%. Ian Toon Trader, Eric, Chris, long time no see. Long time no see you too, mate. I hope you're well. Chris is also saying, ref was terrible, 100%. Dan has been a member for 12 months. Thank you very much for your support, Dan. VAR did F4 when Trossard did that to Isak. Very true, very true. And Tyson, because we're living in a VAR world, and Chris is a VAR girl. I am not a VAR girl, by the way. I hate VAR. It's absolutely awful. And a comment there from Balrock saying, Aspria. That is a mouthful, man. That's like something you'd say when you've had too many beers or too many tequilas, as the song goes with Will Osula, because I love that song, by the way. That's such an imaginative song, absolutely. Yeah, Ragatoni agrees with me. The Sandro foul was awful. It really was. I think he went over the top of the ball as well, didn't he? It was a really, really nasty tackle. And I was Very, very disappointed the referee didn't even go back and pull it up, to be fair. Philip's saying, sad to see the 3 teams come up from the Championship. The previous season go straight back down. Second season in a row doesn't help with the FFP and PSR rules stopping them spending serious money. 100%, that's what I said before as well. Philip, I totally agree with you, mate. I just think they're making it look really, really almost impossible for promoted teams to stay in the Premier League, and that's not good for the competitive nature of the Premier League. I've seen Gary Neville say that on the overlap. I totally agree with it. I think there's a real question that needs to be asked about FFP and PSR. Again, we've said it for a long time. Who's it really there to protect? It's there to protect the elite. It's not there to protect the other teams in the middle. It's not there to protect the Championship teams who have worked their arse off in a long, hard, grueling season, the Championship to come up. We've done it before ourselves. We know how hard it is to get out of that division. They've got no chance of staying up when they can't spend. Jamie saying league looks good, though. Important win today. If we take a point from Brighton, it would be great. I totally agree, Jamie. If you look at the fixtures actually on that point, mate, you know, Brighton away, that's a real difficult one. That has the possibility of being like a Villa game. If we don't turn up, I really hope we do turn up for that one. Then we've got Chelsea at home. That's a huge game. If we take points away from Chelsea, you know, we're more or less cementing our position in that Champions League. Arsenal away is a tough one, but they've got the Champions League to worry about. We've got their number as well. I really think we can get something like that game. And then Everton at home, the last game of the season, which hopefully I will be at. That'll be a big game for us to almost solidify Champions League as well. So fingers crossed we can do that. But it's all in our hands, as we've said, you know, and we can definitely, I think we can definitely do it. I really do believe that. Paul is saying the Osula needed more minutes, bring so much more than Wilson. He really does, Paul, doesn't he? I mean, it's what he brings to me is excitement as well. You see a lad like that. And I mean, again, I didn't see it when we signed him. I was very concerned about his goal record, but it's almost, you put him on that right-hand side. He's not a fully fledged centre forward. He can go on the right, he can drift inside, but he's good in the air, he's strong, he's quick. He can win you a pen or a free kick or something like that. And that's a dangerous player having the bench. And these teams doing the research on Newcastle will know what he can bring. And they'll be saying, fucking worried about him. You know, 80 minutes into the game, if our fullback's tired and he's been ran at all game by Harvey Barnes or Anthony Gordon, you bring this guy on. You know, the pace he's got and the unpredictability. You know, you could just leave a leg out. He ducks one way or the other. You took him down. You didn't mean to. You get a red card. So yeah, absolutely. I think he does need to have a bit more minutes in the tank. There's no doubt about it. But there is something there. 100%. I do fully agree with that. Trivik is also saying Wilson looks like he's playing soccer as a 55-year-old. To be fair, when Wilson retires, he'd be one of the first people I think to get onto soccer aid. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. Just have a look at some of the comments there. Let's see another comment. What we got here? Sorry, comment from Alexander saying, Chris, in your review, I was thinking maybe you could pick some of your specific takes which you commented and see if you still agree. For example, you said after Villa, you thought Gordon's head had been turned. Yes, sorry, I'm just getting you other comment. Alex had been turned. And I wonder if you still agree with your comments. He looked like he was interested there, Alexander. I must admit, he looked hungry for something. I think with Gordon, the Salah signing a new contract has maybe changed the landscape for Anthony Gordon with that potential move to Liverpool. I think the longer the Salah thing was left unresolved, the more that was in Gordon's head that it may have come in from in the summer to go to Liverpool, and that might be maybe where his head was at. Now, I'm not going to have a go at Anthony Gordon for that. Obviously, he's a Newcastle United player, and I think he should, you know, play for the shirt and not give a shit about whoever's linked to him. But, you know, he is a Liverpool lad, and you can kind of understand if he's been like that. But I think now that's done and dusted, I think we might see Gordon screw his head a little bit more and come back and really put in performances. But you've got to play well getting that side, because Barnes looks sharp, Murphy looks sharp. You know, he made the silly mistake with the red card, so he's got all to do to come back. Stephen saying Lewis reminds Eddie of a boy at school who stole his girlfriend, broke his heart, and he gave him a cold out shell. I don't know if that's Lewis Miley, is it? But I thought Lewis Miley was excellent today when he come on. And by the way, Eddie Howe as well poured cold water on all of that noise from the likes of Fabrizio Romano about selling Lewis Miley. He said, no chance. It's not going to happen. He said, we're going to build a team around this kid for years to come. And I was loving to hear that. And maybe Lewis Miley was loving to hear that, the way he come on and put in a great performance, you know, because that'll give him loads of confidence that this manager wants him around. Again, no long staff today. That tells you everything you need to know about that, I think. Garth Hope saying, so pleased for Osula. Absolutely, 100%. He was brilliant when he come on. He was absolutely brilliant. It really was. I think it was a comment that was with reference to George's comment, I think. So I'm just jumping back into your comments there, guys, because Mark has disappeared off other duties, so he's not in the background to help me with the comments. Gavin is saying, great result today. Could have easily been 7 or 8. I totally agree with that. Referee was really poor. Nevertheless, back up to third. That's what's important, isn't it? We're back up to third. We're a point ahead of City. You know, trying to look at their fixtures as well coming through. I'm going to do a video, I think, on kind of what our chances are of getting into the Champions League. I don't want to tempt the football gods. I was holding off until this Ipswich game, which I was confident, you know, that we would get the result in there. So just looking at these Premier League fixtures coming through. So they've got to play Wolves at home. So you'd fancy them to get that. Then they've got to play Southampton away again. You'd fancy them to get something like that. They've got Bournemouth, which could be a real tricky one. And then they've got Fulham away on the last game of the season. Now that's a big one for them. That's the one that could really trip them up, I think, in terms of their chances. I really think they could be in big trouble with that one if Fulham turn up, because Fulham are chasing Europe as well. Fulham want to finish strong and they really want to go for it. In terms of the Chelsea fixtures as well, then we'll check the Forest ones while we're here. Why not? Let's have a little look and go through. So Chelsea have obviously got us, which is a big one. They've got Liverpool on Sunday, the 4th. Then they've got us on the 11th. 2 massive games for Chelsea. If Chelsea to get nothing from those 2 games, they could be out of the picture. And they've got Manchester United after that. Then Forest. That's a massive game on the last game of the season for those 2 teams, isn't it? In terms of chasing these Champions League positions as well. There's that many teams that are in it, isn't there, as well? You've got to throw Villa in there too, and look at their fixtures. But you could be at this all day, honestly. You could be at this all day trying to figure out who's doing what. So Forest have then got Brentford, which is not an easy game either. Next Thursday for Forest, because Brentford can bring it. We know what they're like, the likes of Wisa and Wemo as well. And they've got Palace away, which isn't an easy game. Leicester at home, which you'd like to think they get the points in. West Ham away. And West Ham are a weird team. You can never predict what they're going to do. And then they've got they've got Chelsea at home on the last game of the season as well. And in terms of the Villa fixtures, Aston Villa fixtures, let's have a look at theirs to round up this conversation about where we're gonna look to finish, really. So looking at them again, they've got Fulham at home, which is a tough game. Bournemouth away, which is a very tough game. Spurs at home, which you'd like to think they'd get the result there. Then Manchester United away. So these fixtures are so hard to predict. They really, really are. Very, very difficult to predict, I think, in terms of who's going to finish where. But we've got it all to do in terms of in our hands, really. I think the fixtures that we've got, you really would think you'd fancy Newcastle if they can win the home ties that they've got, the home fixtures. Obviously, we'll beat Ipswich today, we'll beat Chelsea, we'll beat Everton. You'd like to think that's going to be enough to see us through to the Champions League, but it really is an exciting race. Certainly not if you're one of the fans of it, you're shitting yourself. But I think it's a very exciting race towards the end of the season for something. It's good to see because the league's done and dusted and won. Relegation's done. European football races. That's where we want to see some excitement there. Ian saying Kun from Celtic, 10 or 12 million. I do like Kun. I think he's a very good player. Saw him in the Champions League against some big teams, and I felt that he didn't look out of place at all. I thought he looked really good. So I would like him, especially for that price. I think he's really, really cheap. Sanjay saying, would you take Liam Delap as our second striker next season? Absolutely. Or would you look for more options? Jorgen, Stan Larsen, and Amiga, Gassan. Yeah, there's loads of options there, mate. There really, really is. I think Delap is going to have a massive list of clubs behind him. And I think I was watching a Craig Hope video and he made a valid point as well, which he often does, Craig. He said that I think Delap's people, with the fact that Alexander Isak's probably going to stay at Newcastle, which hopefully he will, they're going to be looking elsewhere because Delap wants game time. And you understand that. He's 22 years old. He's got 12 goals in a poor side. You surround him with better players, then I think he will get goals. He'll get even more goals, than he would do. Absolutely, in a poor side like that. And there's going to be a lot of clubs in for him. Can Newcastle pull out a blinder? Can we pull somebody out of Europe for 10, 12 million quid? And he turns out to be an absolute blinder? Maybe, or we're going to go for one of the headlines that everybody's after. But if you listen to United Stand, you're going to steal him off Manchester United, apparently, if you believe that, which will be, very interesting. have no idea what you're talking about there, George. I'm not pulling that up. I'll probably get done. David Knightson, finally Osula plays unbelievable. I thought he'd shagged at his wife. Oh, my days. I love your comments in here, guys. You crackers. Absolutely crackers. Kev said, does anyone know why we put 2 keepers on the bench? Squad depth, Kev, I think, to be honest with you, mate. I don't think they trust the young lads to come in. I think that's what they're doing. They're just putting as many professionals on if they possibly can. Kenderson, how on earth that wasn't a Bruno goal? Yeah, the first half, that was a weird one if you're talking about that, Kendo. I thought the keeper was soft as piss. So the cross come in if you didn't see it. The keeper flaps at it. Bruno stands, turns his back to the keeper. Keeper bounces off Bruno, drops the ball. It falls into the back of the net. And then they give it as a free kick. The keeper, but no, keepers are massively overprotected. That endangered David Attenborough's in the rate in the fucking play. But I thought that was bullshit. I thought that was a goal. And it should have been a goal. And I tell you what, if that goal had been allowed, that keeper's head would have crumbled. Absolutely crumbled like your morning Weetabix when you pour your milk on it, because he was already rattled. And if that had got in my days, he would have been terrible. Chris is saying, got a feel in the Champions League will go down to the wire, but I'd love to get it wrapped up earlier. Me too, mate. I don't know if my heart can take a last day job. Graham is saying, need 3 points next week. I know Brighton are not our favourite away trip, but we owe them. We should create and should put a gap in. We'll be top 4, never mind top 5. Great to see Botman back. You're right, Graham. We'll have to go to Brighton looking for a result. And how great was it to see Eddie Howe back as well, guys? That was amazing to see Eddie back. He didn't look like he missed a beat. He was arguing with the 4th official at one point as well. So it was class to see. And hopefully Eddie, and being back on the touchline, is going to give us that extra what we need to secure those Champions League positions. Phil saying I would definitely take Mbeumo, Cunha and Delap at our club in the summer window, 100%. As long as Manchester United let us sign all of them, Philip, because as you know, according to United standard, they're signing everybody, even though they're shit. I can't wait for them to get dumped out of the Europa League, by the way. I will be massively supporting Atletico Bilbao in that competition, because I can't wait to see those wanks get dumped out of Europe, because they think they're going to shithouse their way into the Champions League. And I hope to Christ they don't. They did this last season when they won the FA Cup and knocked us out of Europe. I hope to God they don't do it again, because my God, that would be absolutely dreadful. Yeah, I like coffee. You're right. He is a Newton Heath player already. It was very funny when Paul was calling him Newton Heath the other day. I must admit, it did make me chuckle, to be fair. Beresford's on Football Focus. No wonder I've only got 234 in here. You're all watching Bez. What a legend he is, by the way. I've been to a few talk-ins with Les. Bez, he's absolutely class, to be fair. He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. Stephen saying, I'll hate Leon for the rest of my life because of the week. They did give us Bruno, though, to be fair, Stephen. So maybe just cut them a little bit of slack for that as well, to be fair. We've got Balraco NUFC saying, is this the way to Barcelona? Bayern Munich, Lazio, Roma. Geordie boys, we're taking over. The Champions League awaits for me. I do love that one. That's a great chant. Paul is saying we should fear no one with 4 games left. 3 points a day, as I said. Yeah, I said that as well. I got the score right as well, 3-0. I did say 3-0, so I got that score right as well. But yeah, just a business-like performance from the lads today. Never really looked in doubt. I think they were hungry for it. Attempt after attempt, massive possession, 78% possession overall. To Ipswich. No surprise really in terms of in terms of what they were offering. I think the only outlet that had was Delap. Again, he didn't try and make things happen, but he didn't have any support from behind him. They're going to focus on a red card, I think, to talk about how that turned the game. But let's be honest, the goal was coming in before the red card, and the red card helps facilitate their kind of capitulation. But I think it was coming anyway. I think Newcastle were going to win that game, even if it was 11 after 11. Would be famous. Chris, have you recovered from Villa off a suicide watch? I have recovered from Villa, yes. I was annoyed. I was very annoyed at Villa, but I'm okay. It's okay if I'm annoyed. I can be annoyed, certainly after a performance like that. I know some people think you're not allowed to be annoyed and you have to be happy all of the time, but I was very annoyed about that. I was maybe a little bit too harsh on that. That's why I did the aftermath video, to say I was a little bit harsh on the lads. But it was a bad performance last week, but not this week. It was business-like. They didn't really offer anything for me, I think. But still, you can only beat what's in front of you in that regard. Jamie saying, Trips, man of the match. Fame of the day. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Arthur saying, I would love it if we beat Arsenal. Makes my day to see Arteta formulate dumb excuses. I do love the fact that Arteta wets the bed against us. We're in his head. We're absolutely in his head. I'm confident getting a result against Arsenal. I really am. Out of all the fixtures we had, Arsenal was the one I was the most confident about, because think we just got their number this season. They hate playing against us, and we get under their skin. I like Coffee saying if the 3 relegated teams had done better, we could have seen even Spurs in relegation zone. I do agree with that. It annoys me that they're comfortable now in the league and still get the Champions League. Yeah, that is irritating. I hope to God that they don't do that. I never offered you out for a fight, Stephen. Don't be daft. I don't do that, mate, at all. I don't do that at all. I think I just disagree with what you said, mate, I think, to be fair. But yes, no, a few people unsubscribed because they weren't happy with my whinging last week. But I'm not whinging this week, am I? Because we've done well. But I think that's us pretty much done this week, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who jumped in the comments. Ash, better late than never, buddy lad. Good to see you. Go back and watch from the start, buddy lad. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, if you like the channel, you're checking us out for the first time, click that like and subscribe button. Help us get to the next milestone. Like the video, help the channel grow. Thank you very much for watching. Have a brilliant Saturday night. Newcastle United are 3rd, back in pole position for the Champions League. Bring on the next game. We fear nobody, and neither should we. Have a better everyone. See you later. Cheers.
Heroes celebrate. They have done it.